I'm just saying I don't have it. I don't have smots in that sense.
Don't try that again.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You're gonna hurt something next time.
As the sun was setting o'er the bright meadows of Shelby, a rebel hand set the head of...
There you go.
It's gonna be like hot.
Yeah, no, it's just gonna be hot and stupid the rest of this year. So
Why do we live here, man?
I don't know.
Oh! It's because it's like a really super conservative state where they care about your liberties.
No, that doesn't even apply anymore.
No, it doesn't. So what are we doing here?
I don't know what we're doing here, to be honest.
Four Seasons?
We should be like northern Mainers.
Like the land? We're here for the landscapes?
There's not even landscape here. It's like
The Great Cuisine?
you can find pockets of that, but that's about it.
All right,
You can
but
find
I can
that elsewhere.
I can smoke a brisket anywhere.
Yeah, that's a true story. No, this is definitely not the pristine beaches. Why are we here?
Did you say peaches or beaches?
Yes.
Yeah, neither one's
No,
good.
it doesn't exist. You know what? I realized the first time we left Texas and we moved up to the northern Midwest for several years, I remember coming home one day and telling Candace, I realized today how much Texans are lied to. You know, we're just told like everything's better in Texas, everything's bigger in Texas, Texas. And I remember on my way home from work as I drove to this bluff that I love that overlooked the Missouri River. And it was cool. Our side of town, it was about 200 feet above the river, this bluff. But the other side of the river for about 20 miles was like water level with these really cool croplands before it went back up. It was a really cool valley. And I'm just looking at this as the trees are changing color and these, beautiful bird migration and all this. And I'm looking around at houses that are older than the entire state of Texas or even settlements here. And I'm thinking, we were lied to so bad.
Right.
It is not better there.
No. But the pride still exists.
Pride still exists, but pride can be engineered, I think. Kind of like patriotism can be engineered.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, you just got to go to the right college and you'd be proud of it no matter how much their various programs might suck or no matter. Yeah, keep what was it? Keep A&M or keep College Station normal was the answer to keep Austin weird.
Was it?
Yeah,
it didn't last long, if that's the case.
No, they're just less weird than Austin.
Everybody in Texas is less weird than Austin. Unless you're in a certain part of Houston, then you're permitted to be as weird as you want.
True.
Yeah. I remember that was the first time I saw nudity as a child. We had moved from the panhandle of West Texas down to, we lived right off of Memorial Drive in Houston, and we were going to Blockbuster Video. Remember those?
Yep.
And it was the middle of the day. All right. We'd only been down here for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 days. Dad got this really awesome job down here. We're down here. I felt like I've moved to a third world nation. We're driving, and all of a sudden, we're driving through this. They've redirected traffic because there's a parade going on. And I look, and there's this woman with a blue and purple mohawk and no shirt on and walking around. And I was like, what is this? And, of course, Mom's like, don't look at that. I'm like, I can't look away. This is incredible because half the people in the street are naked and they're dyed different colors and all that. And we pull into our Blockbuster, and it's right across the street from this store called Condoms Galore. And
there's a business plan.
Yeah, that was a doomed business model, I think, eventually.
Wow.
But they, and so I'm asking,
what are you gonna sell? Condoms.
And
what else?
Lots
Magazines.
more condoms.
Yeah.
And so I remember asking my parents, what is that? And they're like, we made a mistake. We moved to the wrong area. And which again goes to show that where we lived was polar opposite to what was apparently what was then called the Art Parade, which is now taken a different name. But yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we drove right in the middle of that, from the middle of nowhere, West Texas, where you grew up on family farms and worked hard every day, sun up to sundown, to...
Nothing to see for miles but kinfolk.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah, we didn't have any hills. We didn't have trees. It was just, we were surrounded by cotton fields that the rich people owned, and then our poor gardens that our grandparents owned.
And then you moved here, and your mother would have paid anything for some hills and trees to be between you and that parade.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she's like... We just need to pretend we didn't see that. That's not happening. I've seen things.
That's healthy. Let's
Yeah.
pretend this doesn't exist.
So that's what you want to do to an 8-year-old
Yes.
growing up in the country.
Oh, wow. Yeah, bring him to Houston, man.
Yeah, first day. We're taking a field trip to the Montrose area, ladies and gentlemen. What is that? And then on the way home, some lady was cussing us out and giving us the finger because Mom was in the wrong lane. And I was like, what is she doing? She's like, I hope she doesn't shoot us. Oh, yeah, I love this place.
This is better than TV.
What were you saying? So we've talked about, and I think maybe while we're eating, we kind of realized that we want to make a point that there are solutions to this. The idea is that so many times the people want to think that they're free thinking, but they're tuned into their own bias. And a lot of times people want to apply this to the left, only to the left.
You know, I think it's human behavior, and it's true on both sides of the aisle, if that's what you want to focus on. If you feel like it's you on the right versus them on the left, or vice versa, it's all a matter of human behavior. And the part that both sides seem to be ignoring or possibly ignorant of is the fact you're getting played either side of the aisle, man. Because you go on a Fox News website, and what is it? It's clickbait. It's just a different flavor of clickbait, and they're still getting you. Now, a ton of people only read the headlines, so maybe they're not clicking, or maybe they are. But even down to the stupid stuff that doesn't matter, like the Hollywood bullcrap of so-and-so said, and then in all caps, this.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, they said something controversial. And then you click on it, it's like nothing. Like, why is there even an article? Does someone get paid to write that?
And then at the end of the day, too, it's like, even if they said something, why would I care about their opinion? Because they can pretend really well. Now all of a sudden they're qualified to tell me about facts more than others.
Right. Have they done anything significant? Do they have some of this great education? Do they show that they have character, morals? Do they believe in absolute truth, or is it just whatever suits their purpose? Are they a really good chameleon? Why do we care?
Yeah, because you see that a lot of times, that backpedaling to save my job, save my popularity.
Yep.
And, at that point, I kind of pity those people because, how sad it is. No matter how much money you have, you're still slave to what people think of you, wanting to be pleasing to people. And I think that's the issue. We talked about that. If we could see that people have tried to make, and again, in the U.S. history, we see people have driven government to acknowledge things that it didn't want to acknowledge. In the Deep South, those who held on to that economy and slavery were such a small percentage, but owned so much more of the power, wealth, and sway over the government. All the way up to the civil rights movement. Women being able to vote, so many things. It was people driven. So this behavior that drives people back to wanting to have the government make the solution for them makes no sense because, like we said, what would be a government solution? A multi-state solution? We'll give you your land to rule. Your land? No, they're not going to do that either. Not to mention, I think in America, it'd be really hard to draw those lines anyway, geographically. When you look at a voting map, it's not north, south, east, west. It's city, non-city. City, rural. So at the end of the day, you made a good point. What do we do with this then? It's so easy to point out problems. The difficult thing, any schmuck can point out a problem. It drives me crazy at work. Somebody goes and finds a problem. Okay, and well, that was it. I just wanted you to know there was a problem. I already knew there was a problem. I need solution finders. So I'd asked this before. What if just a moral working class people just move forward? We stop waiting on the government to tell us it's okay. We stop doing that, and we just say, we're going to do what's right. Again, I think that I don't know, let me pick a business, Chase Bank. They own high rises and multiple, it seems like their name's on the high rises of multiple buildings and multiple downtown areas in America. I just happen to think Chase knows how to keep their people safer than the CDC or government will ever be able to do for them. Right. I think they know how. I think they have more of an initiative to get it right on the first try. I think they are smarter, more informed. So what if us as people, business people, just the church, the community, just people who a moral working class just move forward? And what if we begin to do what's best? What if we open up shop? What if we conduct business and by the millions don't have to acknowledge somebody else giving me permission to say, hey, this is the right thing to do? Well, yeah, I know we've already been doing it. Isn't that where we do start nullification, this idea of nullification, saying we don't need to acknowledge your laws or to repeal your laws. We just don't acknowledge those that are oppressive to so-and-so over here because that's not what's right. We're going to do what's right and move forward.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even necessarily a matter of you with your own business or you being the one to take center stage and taking a stand. Maybe it's that there's a business that wants to open up, but they're afraid to do that because they're afraid of the consequences. And they don't think anyone's going to have their back. Maybe what's needed of you is you show up to back them up. You show up to protect them. Some local entity comes around and puts chains on the doors saying, hey, you opened up, you weren't supposed to open up. Now we're going to have to shut you down. Okay. Well, you going to let that happen in your community? Does someone have the right to go shut down a private business? If we continue just to insist, if we have a public that continues to demand that everything be regulated, that everything require a license, then yeah, that's exactly what you're going to see. But then there's so many different consequences that come with that. Unintended consequences, economic hardships that come with that, hiring difficulties that come with that. And that's all forgetting the fact that when does someone have the right to regulate what you do with your own property, with the faculties that you have at your disposal?
Yeah. Well, and I think and like you said, that's the norm now, is instead of millions making the difference in their family, starting in their family or in their business or in their network, instead, out of fear or worry or demand for it all being regulated for them, because again, that seems to be the behavior that we've normalized to. Right. Now that business that opens up and says, look, we're going above and beyond, and they get shackled at the door, they get threatened to be arrested or are arrested. Where's everybody else at?
Right.
You all, both of you on both sides of your fake aisle said that you were totally against all these things against each other, but no one took a stand.
No one wants to put any skin in that game. No one's willing to stand up and say, hey, you want to go after him, you're coming after me too. Everyone's thinking, man, my hide's safe, so that's all that matters.
No, and what's bad is every time they say that, they're actually making their hide more exposed to somebody else regulating what it takes to be safe now. Right. What is safe? It's going to be continually changing. And so to me, that's where we're at is that before we talk about putting pressure, like I said, we've talked about this before. People talk about, I would fight for this, I would fight for that. My thing is if you're not going to fight and die for something, if you can't live for something every day, it's just not going to happen. If you're not going to stand up for what's right daily, you're not going to go fight and die for it. That's a cop-out. It doesn't take a warfare and revolution for people to just stand up and say, I'm going to do what's right in my family. My group of friends, we're going to stand up and do what's right. And in the businesses that we either own or support, we're going to support what's right so they're not alone. And to me, that's what it's going to take, is owning our behavior, owning our mistakes we've made as a people, and saying, no, I'm going to take back what I need to do, and I'm going to invest in knowing what's going on that affects my family, my friends, my community, my people, and we're going to stand together and do what's right so that because so and so is from this group, no, we're not going to let you take their rights away. Because so and so thinks this, no, you're not going to take their rights away. The whole thing of this whole mask thing we touched on earlier. Again, if somebody wants to wear a mask, that's fine. I don't judge you for that. If someone doesn't want to wear a mask, that's fine. I don't judge you for that. I trust you to make good decisions on your own or to own your own responsibility. I'm tired of us being burdened because people are afraid that, well, so-and-so can't make good decisions on their own.
Yeah. I used to work for this, for someone who talked about don't stray too far from the herd.
Yeah.
Like that's backwards, man.
Yeah, it is.
Especially because of they see themselves as a more of a conservative right-wing person. And I think they would associate themselves with this belief in your standard American culture of individualism and liberties, and 4th of July is a big deal, but don't stray too far from the herd mentality. Well, I mean, if you don't stray from the herd, you don't have a Declaration of Independence.
Yeah, that was a minority that wrote that.
Yep.
And doesn't the herd, aren't they the ones that eventually get put on the truck to go to the slaughterhouse?
Oh yeah, man. I mean, you saw that with the Soviet Union. You saw that with over in Germany. There's I'll have to look it up at some point. But there was in Boston. There's a Holocaust memorial, and there's a stone with a quote on it nearby, and something, and I'll butcher it horribly, but something to the effect, first they came for the Jews, and I said nothing, and then they came for the Polish, and I said nothing, and so on, all these different groups, and then they came for me, and there's no one left to say anything or stand up or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So this idea that we're talking about, it's not about me standing up for my rights and demanding that someone respect my rights. Okay, that's somewhat true, but that's not the principle that we're talking about, because the requirement of me in Scripture is that I look out for my neighbor first. I can lay down my rights. I can't lay down your rights. And so if I am to fulfill Scripture, that's standing up for my neighbor. What happens when I do that? Society is protected because I have a whole bunch of neighbors. I'm also protected by that.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about my rights. You're going after his rights? Go for it. Okay, buddy, you're next.
Yep.
And if you don't see that, you deserve whatever's coming at you. Or maybe you see it and you're too much of a coward to do anything about it. And you really deserve whatever's coming at you.
Well, and there's another side of that too, though. I mean, you're absolutely right. But that means also we have to own our responsibility. Then liberty and well, even just liberty itself. We don't even go to freedom yet.
Yeah.
But liberty, it mandates you own your responsibility.
Yes.
For it, your actions, your part of it that you have to play.
Yeah.
And again, that still goes back to that behavior we've fostered and let fester here. Is that it's not my responsibility. It's always somebody else's.
Right. And that's what you were talking about in the beginning of the conversation at school. It was never your fault. It was like when you went to detention and that coach is in there saying, all right, whose fault was it this time? Or how is it not your fault?
Right.
But Ron Paul made this point in his book, The School Revolution, and it stuck with me. As early as you can, you need to be teaching kids the relationship between responsibility and liberty, because there's a direct correlation there. As you take on more responsibility, you have more liberty.
Right.
If you have responsibilities that you abdicate, you will lose liberty. And if you can instill that into a child at a young age, and they grow up and they just naturally act upon that, then you're going to see liberty grow in their life. They're taking care of their responsibilities.
Yeah.
Jocko Willink talks about the same idea. Discipline equals freedom. You're disciplined with your money, you're going to have more financial freedom. You're disciplined with your time, you're going to have more freedom of how you use your time. You're disciplined with your how you treat and take care of your body. You're more likely going to be able to do the things that you want to be able to do. You know, if you're just sucking down sodas and eating, you know, every brownie and donut that passes in front of you.
We just had brownies.
Yeah, we did. The one time this week. I mean, maybe not for you, but
No, this is my second time.
oh well, must be nice. But if we're sucking that stuff down every day, then there's going to be consequences for that.
Yeah.
And so as you take on that discipline, man, there's a whole lot of things that we'd like to go out and do. It's not necessarily that it's easier, but it is far more beneficial in the long run. It is far more meaningful. Not just because you need to do difficult things for the sake of doing difficult things, but it's what comes with that. It's the consequences of making those decisions to put that effort in because it is good.
You know, that's a great point. And I'm trying to think while you're talking, there's examples of that I don't think this is lost on people. I don't think this is a lost concept because when we get on this conversation, it's very quick to get annihilationist and everything, you know, oh, it's just all going to nothing or there's nothing we can do. There is things we can do. We can start within, you've said it many times, our sphere of influence. And I see people doing that. And again, you and I think we agree there's no other side of the aisle here. You know, that's just the way people divide themselves. They'd like to think they're different. But I see things where people who are on both sides of the aisle doing the same thing. You see like these tiny house homesteads and these building off the grid and all these shows that are picking up steam, people who are living off the land. I think people are coming back to that notion that the more responsibility I'm willing to own in my life, the more freedom I can have. But if all I want to do is sit around and have a grocery store nearby, sit around and do this, I mean, I don't know, I'm just picking random examples, but the less we want to own ourselves, the more it dictates where we live, how we live and all that.
Right.
And I think that concept's there. And if we can see it on how much freedom you have as in a homestead or your home or however you want to do it, I mean, there's so many different examples. And when you watch these different shows, they're obviously leaning different ways politically. But that underlying truth is there.
Yes.
So if it's true for that, then it's true for all.
Right.
And I think it's going to have to go, okay, if we can recognize this is a personal behavior recognition we have to have, it's going to make a difference. It's not, hey, you media, you need to report different, or hey, you politicians that we keep reelecting, you need to do something different. Right. It's on us to make the difference, and we can start in our own sphere of influence.
Yeah, stop listening to the media. If you have any complaints about, why do you listen to it? Why do you care what they have to say?
Yeah.
Right? There's a great example. The local Channel 2 station put up some crap headline about a couple in St. Louis. They put a picture of this white couple pointing guns at protesters that are just marching through downtown St. Louis.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then once you read the article, they finally say in there, well, these people were actually threatened by them. Okay, well, that's if the clickbait was totally different. I mean, and you just look at the presentation was something where they leave it so they have, well, no, that's not what we meant by it. Shut up. Anyone that's buying that doesn't have two brain cells to rub together.
Or they're lazy.
Lazy, yeah. Laziness is a big one. It's the same people that are, well, they're reporting this about all these different studies with COVID-19 and this is what the media is telling me. All right, but how many other headlines have you seen that are saying that there's a misrepresentation? How many other stories have you heard from? I've heard from a number of pretty close accounts of people that are receiving positive tests that never had a test.
Oh yeah, we know people.
Yeah,
you and I both know people who have had the never went to their appointment and got their positive. And I can think of so many examples, and I won't beat a dead horse here, where I had to read down to the 13th or 14th paragraph where they finally said, like in one, there was no underlying causes found, but then they found that this person had type 1 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes is an underlying condition, and with a blood sugar of 1,500.
Yeah.
Okay. Or then the other one, they omitted it completely, where the driver, what do they phrase it? Luxury car mows down Black Lives Matter protester. Well, what's the imagery that paints in your head? They didn't mention that the
Right.
driver was black, and there's more to the story. They don't cover the people who are black who are smearing the Black Lives Matter
Right.
things. So, but like you said, whoever just reads these things, and those who don't even click, they just take that headline as fact and move
Right.
on. I would say they willfully only have 2 brain cells because they're too lazy to actually pick it up and do it. And we have to own our own problem now. It's not DC. It's not in our case Austin. It's our fault
Right.
if as a people we don't say, hey, I will own my responsibility and begin to do what I need to that gets us to a state of my family being
Right.
free to live and having more liberty. And so your family, I want to help yours out and help so-and-so out. I mean, heck, we've talked so many times. We have a business here in town who has been far more of a community leader than any politician because they were the example of how you could keep going through this whole pandemic and panic, and yet no one's been sick.
Right.
They have operated phenomenally and kept other businesses in town going.
Yeah. For the people that complain about the media, stop.
Yeah.
Just stop listening to it. Stop caring about it. You already know you're either willfully ignorant or you're just plain ignorant.
Yep.
They're not trying to report truth and fact to you.
And I would agree with you. That's the only two camps there are. You're either willfully ignorant or just ignorant.
Yep. And the same thing with the politicians. The politicians have shown their hands time and time again. And you think that someone gets in there and, well, they're going to be different. No. Until you see years of consistency from them, I don't know why you would assume anything different.
Yeah.
And we've all had that one person that we paid attention to, thought, man, this guy's going to get in there and be different. And it doesn't take very long. All of a sudden, they're letting you down. Why would you think anything different is going to happen? How do you think they got in there? They got in there because they had such a strong backbone and they were so principled. You don't get anywhere in politics by being principled.
And
Now, there's very, very few exceptions to the rule.
but they're exceptions.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's the thing we have to remember is they're not norms. I mean, just because somebody won a popularity contest doesn't mean all of a sudden, just like the Supreme Court, they're not doctors, sociologists, economists, psychologists. They don't know.
Right.
And yet we're like, hey, you tell us how we should do this.
Right. And stop defaulting to other people to tell you how to run your own home.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I'm thoroughly convinced if you want to know how you ought to run your own home, you turn to the Bible. All right. Turn to God. There should be none between you and him. Well, I need to look to my congressman, my representative, my senator, whoever, my mayor, my county judge, tell me how I ought to behave, how me and my household ought to conduct ourselves.
Yeah.
All right. Take responsibility for you and yourself, you and your family, and move forward.
Yeah.
Do what's right.
And it applies to any hot topic. It's like right now, racism is the hot topic. We want to end that. Okay, so where am I ultimately going to make the decision? You know, I'm not going to tolerate it in my household and my kids. We're not going to tolerate it in our community. When we stand around, we don't tolerate it in our area around
Right.
here. Nobody puts up with that crap. I didn't need somebody to go burn down a city 2,000 miles away for me to do that. We were already doing that.
Right. Right. And the craziest thing is in our house, we didn't really have to have a conversation about racism. We had conversations about how you treat people.
Yeah, people.
And we weren't drawing the distinction. And then someone wants to come along and say, well, it's kind of built into the way that the way that society is and the way that your privilege and the way that you conduct yourselves. No, bull crap. Just because you claim that's true doesn't make it true. My kids never made any distinctions about their friends or their teachers based off of anything of that sort.
Yeah. No.
And then a conversation starts coming up about, well, there's these riots going on. Why are they going on?
Yeah.
Okay, well, now we're going to have to get into the strange topic of what people are claiming is built in as a mainstay in society.
Yeah, and and the whole thing is I think for those of us who do manage our liberty, those of us who do balance our responsibility, who do take ownership, we do get pissed off because regardless of the political party, we're under this behavioral norm around us and the houses and voters around us that say, hey, government, tell us how to do this right. Well, it's got it wrong so many times.
Right.
It's like you making a new law is going to make somebody in some state in the north or south be less racist. Okay, well, that's like thinking gun control is going to stop murder. Okay, well, let's do this. Let's outlaw murder first and see how that goes.
Right.
Oh, we did. Or hey, let's make this certain type of drug illegal. Okay, cool. Why don't we just outlaw drugs and drug trafficking and see how that goes? No. So obviously they're not going to be the source of fixing things. It's going to be us and our families and our towns. And what is it? The sad truth of human trafficking. Mm-hmm. If you don't want it, stop making the demand for it.
Right.
I mean, we as a people have to own the fact that really all we've done is say, government, fix it. And yet at the same time, we're buying in this lack of degradation of society's morals and thinking, hey, a new law will fix it. It's just insanity. And we have to own this and say, what is our personal responsibility? Where do we make the stand? Where do we make the difference? And I got this from you, and I hope it's okay. I'm going to steal what you said, but if I start with my family and you start with yours and we start to affect our kids, guess what we've just did? We've just started shaping the next generation.
Right.
Now, the problem is what happens if millions of people stop being afraid and they start doing that to their kids? Okay,
right.
Millions have just started shaping tens of millions for the next generation, saying, we're going to stand for what's right. I don't need somebody, well, who told you to do that? Well, God told me to do that, okay? Because right is right, wrong is wrong. We're going to stick with what's right and fair to everybody. Instead of training them to go, hey, who did your government teacher tell you had to turn to learn what was right?
Right, exactly.
So, I don't know. My wife and I had this conversation. She says, so where are we at? And I said, it seems like we're at a balance between the encouragement to the church, Philippians, where it says, for whatever is true, honorable, noble, praiseworthy, if anything's a virtue, meditate on these things. I said, we're between that and between the charge of the church at Ephesus. Watch carefully how you walk, not as wise, but be wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil. We're skeptical. We understand there's things that are wrong out there, and we've got to be aware of it. But I don't have to continue to bear the burden for those who are wrong, thinking a new burden on me is going to tell somebody who's living criminally or wrong or racially that it's going to fix them now. Instead, uncuff your people to go live what's right.
Right.
And own that responsibility. Make the difference. Change and influence around them. And I imagine we'd be more surprised, just like we were during the civil rights era, that, hey, more people than you thought were in support of this. And instead of punishing the majority for the minority and making us all live along the mindset of just those who are holed up in cities, realize that there's different cultures, different needs in different places everywhere, but yet we all want to do what's best majority of the time. Don't make a new law because you arrested somebody in Montgomery County Jail today who did something stupid, and so you have to make a new burden for me. So, and I say that trying not to chase a rabbit, but I really feel like we've got to be aware of our own situation and impact our own situation, and we've got to own that because we've condoned our own behavior for so long that we've become our own stumbling block. We've become our own speed bump, and until we stop thinking it's everybody else's fault and do it ourselves, we're just not going to make it anywhere.
I agree 100%. And it comes down to everyone taking ownership over their own lives and the information that they allow to guide them. And, the language that you were just using, it requires positive action on your part.
Right.
It's not just sitting back and letting things be. It means you've got to get off your butt and you actually have to take action. And that might not always come easy. Maybe you were raised in a home where you never saw any of that taking place, and it's on you to go ahead and do something new to figure that out. But, what's the alternative? You got something better to do?
Yeah. Right.
You Guarantee you don't.
Yep.
Absolutely not.
And you know what? I have to sacrifice my want to be comfortable, lazy, and entertained
Yeah.
in order to get my keister where it belongs and putting some effort in. Anybody can be a punk. Anybody can be a jackhole. Anybody can just rant on stupid things. But you know what? Not everybody can take that time to have that. Well, we talked about that middle of the night talk with your kiddo.
Yeah.
That's gonna shape how they react to fear or frustration or something bully. Nobody's willing to have that talk with their family when it's hard and you're exhausted to teach them and disciple them on basic truths and concepts that are right. Any thug can drive a car in the middle of the night and be a punk. Anybody can steal or take. But it takes a true man or a true woman to actually invest in years of building character into your family. Yeah. And you got to do something. You can't just sit on your butt and watch TV and think the world's going to change for you.
No, you literally have nothing better to do than to get out there and take responsibility for those things that have been given unto you to handle and to handle in an appropriate manner. And to do so courageously, because it's not always going to be easy. Yeah. It's not always going to be comfortable. Most of the time it won't be, but it's going to be worth it. And so why wouldn't you?
That's a good question. Why wouldn't you?
Hey guys, if you liked what you heard today, if you were interested in the conversation at all or you had any questions, please give us a like, subscribe, share this content, or please leave some comments in the comments field for us to maybe respond to in future podcasts. This whole thing's meant to be a conversation, and so that only works if you're willing to interact with us.
Yeah, resources, comments, talking about Craig's horrible accent, anything that you want to add, we would deeply appreciate.
Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time in the pub.